He brought you through the wilderness. He gave you the land of Canaan. He gave you everything. He gave you this covenant that he established with Abraham. You have it all. They just don't realize it. And he said, whoa, look at that woman back there. You sure look pretty.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, boy. He going for the chain.
Yeah. Hey, you might be. You never know these days. And he says, well, what will it take to get that woman back there? And she says, if you'll erect a statue for my God, then you can have it. And he does this right here. And he just takes everything that God has established and he says, this is what we worship. And he just pushes it all off the table and he says, hey, I reserved the spot for you. I reserved the best spot for you. And Jezebel comes in. And we know that when she comes in, she's not going to want nobody to contest what's going on with her. She said, well, if I'm going to sit here at your right and you reserve the spot for me, but there's somebody sitting right over here, and there's somebody over here, and there's somebody over there. I want all of this space up here. I don't need you just to reserve the, so when we think about the pulpit, we got the seat up here, and you say, well, wait a minute, there's a couple other seats in here. I need you to get rid of these seats over here. Somebody might try to occupy them. And what does Ahab do? Well, it's probably not the best thing, but you know what? She sure looked good today. And before too long, all the prophets of God are gone. And so we rely on God because the king didn't talk to God, but the prophets did. And instead of them having prophecies around them and surrounding them and talking about here's what God said is going on, they said, well, but I'm going to listen to this woman because she sure make me feel good. Well, that feeling that God gives you that makes you feel good, we've substituted it for what the world tells us what feels good. Not all too often happens, does it? That's why people turn to drinking. That's why they turn to drugs. That's why they turn to people. You know, there's all kinds of things that we do that we use as an idol. Everyone has their own particular weakness and all that Satan tries to say. This thing can provide you with that euphoric feeling and all that you want to feel. You remember that day that you came down and you proclaimed that God was what Jesus is what you wanted to serve, and you came and gave your life and you went through that water, that euphoric feeling that you had. You said, I want to feel like that all the time. And you know, you never have that same feeling anymore. You say, well, what can I do to get there? And, well, let me go try this thing right here, because that's what the world tells you. Well, if you just do this thing right here, I can give you that same feeling again. And we do it for a couple of weeks, and we say, woo, boy, it feels good. Well, it's no more off. I need something different. I got to get that feeling again. But he said, God gives you something that when you don't quench that, you won't have that thirst anymore. He's going to quench that fire that's within you and all, and you never thirst anymore if you'll just follow him. But Ahab, he saw something that he liked, and he said, man, I got to take care of this itch. And if that's what she says, is I need to get rid of all these prophets, and I need to bring hers in, then so be it, because guess what? I'm king. So on steps Elijah. And Elijah comes in and he says, these things ain't going right here. What happens when you go against the king? If I tell the king no, if I'm a prophet and I tell the king something the king doesn't want to hear, you know what the king does? They go kill you. They go find another prophet. Bring me in the next person. Bring me in the next seer. Bring me in the next prophet. This guy didn't tell me what I wanted to hear. Imagine that you come in as Elijah and he says, well, what I'm going to do is come in and I'm going to pray to God. Because all the stuff that's been going on for these 20 years that Ahab has been ruling has been sending us the wrong way away from the covenant of God. And you know what? Because he's such a good person with the economy and he's such a good person with politics, you know what people say? They say, well, guess what? We're in spiritual decay right now, but my pockets sure are full right now. We sure do have a king right now that's making sure that no one comes and defends us and defeats us right now. So people say, you know what? If I decide what's best out of those three things is my spirituality, my protection, and my money, spirituality is going to take the third seat there. And they say, well, I'll give it up. Because guess what? I'm secure right now, and I got some money in my pocket. And for 22 years under Ahab, that's what they were doing. And they said, well, apparently if God thought something was wrong with it, he would have done something. But I'm continuing to prosper, and I feel safe, and we're going to continue to go this direction. And so Elijah comes in and he prays to God. He says, the people are misinformed. He's put something over their eyes. They can't see what the truth is. We all too often see brothers and sisters that are going through that, right? And instead of talking about them, and instead of praying against them, instead of saying, man, I know that sucker was up to something, we should be trying to pray for them. Elijah said, let me do this thing right here. Let me show them what the truth is. Because they think that they're continuing to prosper under this guy here. I'm fixing to pray. I'm going to pray that there's a drought that's going to hit. And for 3.5 years, there's no rain that hits. Now, we know that these folks live in a desert country. And, they live along areas that's either by the water or they live in a sparse area where there's a pool here that's growing and all. And they say, let's go establish our civilization right there. And as long as it continues to rain, there's some water that's going to stay there. But what happens when there's 3.5 years of drought? There's no water in those pools. And when we move our house and we try to go live by the river, and guess what? The river starts to eventually trickle to where there's no water there anymore. And they say, man, well, wait a minute. Isn't that stuff supposed to be close to the king? The king is supposed to make sure all these things continue to happen. And then they start pointing fingers at the king and they say, hey, you told us you was going to continue to make us prosperous. You were going to continue to protect us. And we know that this water sometimes provides a boundary between the enemies too. Well, the enemies now get to get closer to you because there's no water there. For too long, that king starts saying, man, something's going on here. And guess what? He said, go find me that guy Elijah, because I know he's the one that did it. And he sends hunt parties out for him. But you know what? God takes care of his people. And God told Elijah at the right time, said, hey, somebody's supposed to come see you. Pick up and go this way. God took care of Elijah. He sent him somewhere else and all, and had him go stay by a pool of water there. And so all of the water and everything that was there was taken care of. And before too long, because of the drought, it also dried up. Now, did Elijah decide to question God because that water dried up? God, you told me to go here and told me to hide out here, and now the water dried up, and now what am I supposed to do? But he continued to trust in God, and God said, guess what? Go stay with this woman right over here who is a widow, and she's going to take care of you. Wait a minute, don't the men take care of the widows? Ain't it funny that God does things that's contradictory to what the world tells us? We think that the world's painting the right picture for us because it gave me this euphoric feeling and all I can do is keep turning to the world, but God has used the world and turned it against itself and says that what the belief is that these women can't take care of themselves and we have to take care of them, but this widow is now who I want you to go see, and she's going to take care of you. And when he went in and talked to the widow, interestingly enough, the widow was not an Israelite. Because these Israelites realized that, hey, I know who you are. You're a prophet of God, and God's going to take care of you. And the way things are supposed to go is I'm supposed to go glean the field. And if you're a foreigner, you go glean the field as well and get some. And so you got more rights than me as a man. And so why are you coming and asking me for help? And she wasn't even a follower of their God. But you know what she said? I don't have anything, but you're willing to stay here with me. I've got enough for me and my family for tonight only, and then we're going to sit back and we're going to die. Because she realizes that we got enough flour left and enough oil left that we can eat one more dinner. And then we're probably going to die. But you're more than willing to come share a meal with us. If your God says he's going to take care of us, then we'll trust him. Isn't it funny how God uses people who's not even a Christian, and we want to sometimes look at them and say, what church you go to? You ain't dressed right. You ain't talking right. I don't know that God is using you at all. The Spirit will show us where Spirit is, regardless of where it comes from. And so Elijah goes in and tells her, says, I'm going to pray to God. And guess what? That oil's not going to run out. That flour's not going to run out. You go bake a cake and you feed your family. And he did that. And for days upon days upon days, it continued. And at some point, Elijah came back and he said, you know what? God has led me now that the time is right for the confrontation. Because before too long, Ahab has taken the people down to And he shows up, and Obadiah is the right hand of Ahab, and he says, well, man, we got to go do something. And Obadiah for this whole time is hitting out 100 prophets himself. And he said, well, at some point Ahab's going to find out what's going on, and he told me to go one way, and he's going the other way. And on this path, Obadiah runs into Elijah. And Elijah, he said, man, Ahab's been looking for you for years, man. 3.5 years he's been looking for you because you to blame for what's going on with this drought. And lo and behold, I run into you. And Elijah says, well, here's what I need you to do. Go tell him I'm here. Go tell him to meet me. Go tell him I'm ready to talk to him. And Obadiah trusts God. But guess what? He knows what happens when you bring the king a bad report. Because if I go tell the king I ran into you, and he's been looking for you for 3.5 years, and he sent all his best men. He took all the best soldiers he could find and said, hey, go find that guy. And he's done been up and down every nook and cranny in town. Y'all know when y'all see the movies and all, and them folks say, man, I got $100,000 bounty on whoever finds them and all. And they go, every low life in the city, go look through everywhere. Ahab is the king. He got all the money. He's done sent everyone looking for him and can't find him. And yet Obadiah comes in after 3.5 years and says, guess what, Ahab? I ran into him in the middle of the street. And he says he wants to meet you. And then you know what he's thinking? Man, I'm fixing to look stupid. Ahab's going to come looking for him there, and that dude's going to be gone. And guess what's going to happen? He's going to kill me. And now all those 100 prophets that I've been hiding are going to be wondering where I'm at, and then something's going to happen to them too. And Elijah said, no, just trust me. Go talk to him. Tell him where I am. I'm going to meet him. I'm ready. God has told me now's the time. That brings us to today's lesson. It was a good build-up, wasn't it? As we look at today's lesson, it said Ahab sent into all the children of Israel and gathered the prophets together. So he goes and he talks to Ahab and he says, hey man, the time has come, you know, and we need to talk to each other because you're the king. And when the king's doing wrong, we need to go tell him when he's doing wrong, right? Say, hey man, we both breathe in the same air. We put our clothes on the same. We have a different title. But you know what? We still serve the same God. And I can talk to you just like I can any other man. And I want you to re-examine yourself and see that the things that God has tasked you with doing, is that what you're doing? He didn't try telling him he was better than him. Because we know that's what happens when people come to us with confrontation or with a question, is that we say, oh, you think you better than me. He wasn't questioning Ahab, you know, and saying I'm better than you. He said, hey, I want you to talk to God and see if are you following the will of God. That might be how we come to our fellow brothers and all. Let's talk about this as colleagues. I'm not judging you, but let's re-examine some things that's going on. And so when confronted with this sin, we have a couple of different ways to respond, right? We can choose to stay silent. We can choose to agree, or we can choose to deny. When God came to Adam and Eve and asked them what was going on and who told them that they was naked and all, they had these three choices, didn't they? They could have chose to stay quiet. They could have chose to tell the truth, or they could have chose to lie. And Adam said, that woman right there you gave me, she did it. She did it. And then she blamed the serpent on it. But neither one of them admitted for fault for anything. And so when he questioned Ahab and he says, man, why are we in the condition that we're in right now? And you know what Ahab said? You did it. This is all your fault. And so sure enough, Elisha had a response for him. He says, I have not troubled Israel, but thou and thy father's house, and that ye have forsaken the commandments of the Lord. You have forsaken the commandments of the Lord. This isn't in our lesson yet. This is verse 18. Imagine that he told the king boldly, I didn't do anything. You forsaken the Lord. Those kings probably would have had him killed He says, and now therefore send and gather to me all of Israel in the Mount Carmel, and to the prophets of Baal 450, and the prophets of the groves 400, which eat at Jezebel's table. And so now he challenges the king. And he says, not only do I want to talk to you to your face and tell you it's your fault, but I want to do it in front of everybody. So go gather all of the town and bring them to Mount Carmel here. You know, in other words, they're going to Vegas. You know how anytime they have a prize fight and all, and they say, hey, we going to Vegas to go fight. You know, so-and-so comes out of retirement and all. Mike Tyson comes out of retirement, you know, and they say, hey, man, we going to Vegas to go fight. We're going to Caesar's Palace. You get you a good old hype man, huh? Bring Don King out of retirement and say, hey, man, go hype this fight up for me. That's what Elijah did. He said, we fixing to hype this up. We meeting in the greatest place right up here and bring everybody. And guess what? Bring all your advisors. I want all of them to be right here.
All right.
In other words, he didn't want him to have any excuse. I'm giving you time to prepare. I want all of your top men right there in case you need to turn to them. Because that's what cowards do, don't they? They don't fight their own fights, and they go say, hey, man, go take care of that cat for me.
Bring all your guns.
Yeah. Bring all your hired aides with you. And then what he accused them of next is he says, they eat at Jezebel's table. In other words, you pay them. So we realize that a prophet, you know, or an aide or a seer and all, they're not supposed to be getting paid by the king. They're supposed to be neutral, right? They're supposed to be telling you the stuff that's true. But in other words, what he's saying is that you paying them to tell you what you want to hear. And wait a minute, not only are you paying them, but they work for your wife because you got rid of all of God's stuff, and so all of the Baal stuff. So wait a minute, you claim to be walking in righteousness in front of the people and say, I'm following the true God. But what he just said is that Jezebel's paying them. You ain't walking in Christ at all. You serving Baal. You just making people think you serving God. He told him it was his fault. He called him out, and then he said, you a phony. Ready to go now, right now?
Oh, boy.
That's what happens, right? You tell them folks the right words, boy, they're ready to go, and you bring their mama in there. That's basically what he said, but, and your mama. And he puts it down and says, you ready? Let's go.
Let's get it.
Let's get it on. That's what he says, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's what they do at them pre-fight things nowadays, don't they? They got to have the pre-fight warm-up and all. They go to the weigh-in and all, and then they go get to talking and all, and they get to saying all that. And ain't it funny how they always get into some fisticuffs right before the fight at the pre-fight thing? Yeah. Y'all know that's all money, right? That's all about getting hype and all for people to watch, because when I go pay-per-view, I got to come out of my pocket and go pay for it, and we got to pay this purse, you know, because this guy's getting paid $20 million, and this guy's getting paid $50 million, and I got to pay for that somehow.
Yes, sir.
We got to get, what's Ahab going to do? Let's see what he does. He says, so Ahab sent into all the children of Israel, gathered the prophets together in the Mount Carmel, and Elijah came into all the people and said, how long have ye between two opinions? If the Lord be God, follow him, but if Baal, follow him. And the people answer him, not a word. So he asked the folks, now that we all here, y'all been straddling the fence. How long you been straddling the fence?
That's dangerous.
Is anybody going to answer that question? I just made a comment about that a minute ago. When folks are confronted with stuff like that, they got three choices. They stay silent, they tell the truth, or they tell a lie. They didn't tell a lie. They didn't tell the truth. They said, huh? They said, I ain't saying nothing.
I come to see the show.
Yeah, I come to see the show. Wait a minute, you challenged Ahab. Why you questioning me? But isn't that sometimes how we feel when we come in here and the preacher's up there preaching, and we think, well, he's preaching about me. But how does he know what come near, and all the people came, and he repaired the altar of the Lord that was broken down. So we realize that when for 22 years Ahab has done this, and before him his father Omri, and before him all the 5 generations going back to Jeroboam, that they've gotten rid of all the stuff of God and all, and they've been allowing the Baals to run town and all. And he said, here's what we fixing to do. Anytime we come back to serving God, we got to go back and look from the beginning of here's what God instituted. When the people came out of Egypt, and this is what happened before they could go into Canaan, God said, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this with the priests and with the people, and we're going to institute some stuff. And so he goes back and says, guess what? Here's what God instituted in the beginning when he formulated that covenant with us. Let's reinstitute. But we're going to start by rebuilding the altar here and putting those 12 rocks around it to represent the 12 tribes of Israel. Because when he formulated that covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, a.k.a. Israel, you guys are supposed to be Israel, right? You ain't acting like Israel right now. They've been separated ever since the kingdom separated. Ever since David passed on. And he said, well, which son is going to take over? And they split into the north and the south.
Oh, yeah.
And they split all their strength. And he said, we got to reunite. He showed them the proper way to come back to God. We've all fallen short somewhere. We might not have fell as far off the wagon as they did. But when you come back to God, here's the way to do it, is what he said. And he says he took the 12 stones according to the number of the tribes of the sons of Jacob, unto whom the word of the Lord came, saying, Israel shall be thy name. And with the stones he built an altar in the name of the Lord. And he made a trench about the altar, as great as would contain 2 measures of seed. So he made a trench. So these altars were a circle. And in this circle and all, he made this altar. And we know that what they do is they put the bull on top of the altar and all that they're going to sacrifice. But we know there's been a drought for 3.5 years, right? And so if we go to light something, boy, it can bust like that because, it's not wet at all. And what he left out here is he gave them first dibs. And he says, he's already covered their stuff. He gave them first dibs and says, guess what? I'm going to let you guys go first. I told you to bring in all your people. And guess what? I'm going to let you choose what lamb you want. I'm going to let you choose what spot you're going to use. You're going to find what wood you want to use that ain't been that's dry or whatever. And you go do all that. And I'm going to give you all day. Because Baal was supposed to be the god of the sky. And the lightning and all that. And so their God can rain down fire anytime he wants to, right? So he says, guess what? I'm going to let you choose the ideal spot in front of everybody. And you got all your people down here. All your top guys. Knock yourself out. Light this on fire. And he goes and sits down. And that was morning time. And it took them all day long, and they call out to Baal, and Baal has not answered and done anything. And then he brings some more folks in and says, man, I think we just need more people in here is what it is. And so they get to jumping around and shouting and dancing and all, and nothing. They say, well, you know what? Let's start cutting ourselves. Because that invokes those gods to wrath and all, and we start cutting ourselves and giving some blood and sacrifice and stuff. And they did all of that stuff, and guess what? Nothing. And Elijah said, does your God not answer you anymore? Yeah, he started poking fun at him. Wait a minute, I thought your God was the greatest. I thought he could rain down fire whenever. Wait a minute, man. I thought whenever you cut yourself, he would show up. Where is he at? And they've exhausted themselves. Brother got something.
The devil is a great imitator. If you'll think back to the garden, there was a shedding of blood symbolizing Jesus, the Lamb of God, when God clothed Adam and Eve with the lamb skin. And now you see the devil trying to being religious but not in relationship, having these people cut themselves as like a blood sacrifice to their God. But their God had no eyes, no ears. He could not respond. And it's foolishness, but we as a nation, we as a world have been blinded by the fact that we are in a spiritual battle. And unless
sir. Well, this thing goes quick. We got 4 minutes to wrap this thing up. All right, so we painted a picture of what happened with them, and so now that it's Elijah's turn. It's just Elijah. He didn't need anyone else to join him. It's evening time. He went out and soaked his altar that morning when he gave them his, and while you guys are doing that, I'm just rebuilding my altar and we're going to soak it down. And it's going to have all day for all the water to soak in everything, and it's going to be totally drenched where it's impossible for any fire to happen at all. And so as he rebuilds his altar, he said, hey, bring in barrels of, 4 barrels. 4 barrels of water, and come pour it on all the altar and on the lamb and all that, and soak it down. That ain't good enough. Go back and do it again a second time. No, go back and do it again a third time. And all the water poured over so much that it drenched everything, and there's a puddle of water now sitting there because he built a trench because he didn't want the water running off nowhere. And so basically, you got a pool sitting by the altar. And these folks are looking like, man, there ain't no way. It's impossible. It's impossible. I'm going to skip down a couple verses. And he says, verse 36, it came to pass in that time that he let it known this day that thou art God in Israel, and I am thy servant, and I have done all these things as at thy word. And so it wasn't about Elijah, it was about God. God did all this. The people may know that thou art the Lord thy God, that thou hast turned their heart back again. Then the fire of the Lord fell. So Elijah's doing all this. He didn't want to take credit for any of that. This wasn't him. Let this be known that God did this.
Amen.
And then he goes to God and prays to God and doesn't do all these theatrics that they're doing, jumping around and dancing, cutting himself and hollering and all that. And he prays to God, and God said, whew. And not only did he send the fire down, but the fire was so hot it consumed everything. Yeah. It consumed the offering, the altar, the rocks, the water. Poof. We've all seen a fire happen, and it takes a while sometimes before it consumes everything, but imagine that immediately when you call God, everything's just consumed all at once. And then you look and you say, wait a minute, man, there ain't nothing left. He licked it all up. There ain't no water left. And yet, how did the people respond? They got down and started praying. They said, wait a minute, man. We done watched this guy all day, and the bells couldn't answer. And the God that we're supposed to serve showed up on the first inkling of Elijah saying something, and look at what he did. If we would just follow God,
Amen.
God could do the same miracles in your life on a daily basis. All you got to do is not turn to the left and see that sin that Satan's trying to paint for you and say that this is the answer. This is what you're supposed to do. I got you, brother. I see you. We're going to be wrapping it up. And so continue to follow God, and God will answer all prayer. Amen.
Thank you, Brother Anderson, for the lesson today.